Hey everybody, it's Shaman Sister Sin, and you're listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org. That's me, Little Shaman. Today I wanted to talk to you about narcissists and social media. I get asked about this all the time, so I thought we could address it on the show today. Social media is huge. Most people use it in some way. People have friendships online, they meet partners online, they work online or create communities there. It is firmly entrenched in our culture and in our lives. Because of this, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to run into narcissists online or that the narcissist in your life uses social media platforms. Narcissists, in many ways, love social media. It's a great source of supply because it's a way for them to live their fantasy life. They can pretend to be anybody they want on social media with no repercussions at all. They never have to show anything bad that's happening. Their followers never have to hear the other side of the story. A social media following is truly a captive audience for the narcissist to exploit, and many of them will. Even the ones that don't actively exploit people are generally using and manipulating them for their own reasons. Now, everybody has different sides of themselves that they show in different situations. You're probably a little different at home than you are at work, and it's doubtful that most people share things on social media that make them look like a bad person. However, most people are not experiencing a huge disconnect from who they really are versus who they pretend to be, either on social media or in general. Narcissists generally are. Many times who they pretend to be online is very, very different from who they actually are. Predators pretend to be victims, racists pretend to be culturally sensitive, people who perpetrate domestic violence pretend to be outraged by abuse. It really is the Twilight Zone in a lot of ways, and most of the time they're doing this for validation. It sounds stupid, but likes on social media are a tangible demonstration of validation from other people. They like this, that means they like me. It means I'm doing something right and I'm a worthwhile person. I'm important because they pressed the like button. Narcissistic people are often very concerned with the amount of likes, reactions, shares, and whatever else they're getting, to the point that they might even have emotional reactions about that. They might become depressed if their follower list becomes smaller or something gets less likes than something else or things like that. In contrast, they might feel over the moon if something gets a large amount of likes or shares. This is indicative of somebody who's placing a high emotional value on these things and that they believe these things mean something more than they actually do. That's because, as silly as it sounds, these things are a direct line of supply for a narcissistic person. They equal validation and attention, which equal narcissistic supply. Remember, pathologically narcissistic people cannot create, regulate, or sustain their own self-worth. They use this so-called supply from others instead. Generic comments from strangers can provoke very emotional reactions from narcissists, and they may become absurdly emotionally attached to people that they barely know because of that. They often believe that people are waiting with bated breath for their next move, or that they and their posts are much more important than they really are. Another reason narcissistic people love social media is because many times the people on there don't know them. They're not privy to the narcissist's life. They have no idea of what the truth would be in any given situation. This makes them almost perfect sources of supply because they don't know any better. The narcissistic person can tell them anything and they're not going to challenge it because they have no reason to. This creates a perfect environment for smear campaigns and for setting themselves up to be a victim. They can pretend to be anything they want, and others will buy into it because they have no reason not to do so, at least not yet. You might find that the narcissist in your life seems to value their social media followers over you, or that they spend an inordinate amount of time indulging in the fantasy of social media rather than interacting with the real people in their lives. They may try to create triangulation with the people online by saying those people are better than you, or they may use them as an audience to smear you. In some ways, it's possible they actually do value those people over you because those people are strangers. Strangers don't know anything about someone other than what they're told. This is the ideal situation for a pathologically narcissistic person. There's no history here, which means there's no bad history, and therefore no shame or negativity. You can't be that perfect because you know the things that the narcissist has done. You were there. You are a reminder that the narcissist is not perfect. That makes you painful and unpleasant to be around, especially compared to these other people. These other people are blank slates. Now, it might sound odd that someone could value superficial connections online over a marriage or family ties, but it's not really that uncommon among narcissists. Many of them don't seem to recognize a difference in the depth between these relationships, and that's possibly because for them, there isn't one. It's not about the depth of the emotion or the length of the relationship. It's about the quality of the supply, and the supply that comes from strangers is better quality than that which comes from people who know them, because the people who know them don't buy into the scam. They know that the narcissist is not who they say they are. To put it very simply, pathologically narcissistic people would rather be around people who don't know them or what they've done, because those people are a lot easier to fool. In the fantasy land of social media, the narcissistic person can truly buy into their own BS because other people are buying into it too. That's what makes it so attractive. As far as social media in general, many people have put forth the idea that social media creates narcissism. While that might be a stretch, it is true that narcissistic behavior is very common on the internet in general. For example, it should be no surprise to anyone that studies have found that internet trolls score very high in narcissistic and psychopathic traits. However, is that because they actually possess these traits, or because the anonymity of the internet cultivates this kind of behavior? In the broader sense, the anonymity of social media platforms does encourage narcissistic behavior, not just because of the so-called selfie culture or virtue signaling or because of validation through likes, but because interaction online dehumanizes people. Social media takes the humanity out of interaction so that it's just words on a screen. It's far easier to abuse, mistreat, or harass people in that situation. Certainly, it's much easier than if they were standing in front of you, and that's for people who are not already narcissists in the first place. If someone, such as a narcissist, for example, already objectifies people, removing the actual humanity of the person completely via connecting through a screen only makes the dehumanization that much worse, because not only is it easy to put it out of their mind, but now any actual consequences have been removed from the equation as well. No one will know what they've done or what they've said. There will be no consequences. They can harass, torture, abuse, mistreat, and more to their heart's content, secure in the idea that no one will know, nothing will happen to them as a result, and secure in the feeling that they are the only real person in the conversation anyway. It's a very scary thing. In order to beware of narcissists online, use the same boundaries and tools that you are developing in real life. Look for the red flags. Does someone overreact to small things? Do they seem too needy? Are they too controlling? Do they tell fantastical stories that you just don't believe? Are they constantly the victim? Do they seem too good to be true? Do they misunderstand or misconstrue things a lot? Do they say future faking type of things like, oh, it'll be better when we're together. It'll be different when we're together. Do they refuse to answer basic questions? Stuff like that. And even if they do none of these things, please remember that while a lot of great relationships bloom online, it is very easy to hide things. And most importantly, there's absolutely no way to know what someone is really like until you are around them in person. There is no substitute for that. I hope this clears a few things up for you. As always, I look forward to your comments, questions, and suggestions, so please keep those coming. I take appointments online, over the phone, through email, via Messenger, and internationally through Skype. So if you're interested in speaking with me, you can visit littleshaman.org and click the Book an Appointment tab. I hold workshops once a month all the way through the rest of 2019. So check that out on littleshaman.org as well. You've been listening to the Meditations and More podcast brought to you by littleshaman.org, and that's me, the Little Shaman. May the Great Spirit bless you and have a wonderful day.